Welcome to RAFF 6205 for the summer course in Regulatory Affairs Compliance in 2019, Session A. My name is James Barclay, and I'll be your professor during the semester, and it's great to be with you. I am so excited and pumped that you all are part of this course, and I can hardly wait to get started. And what I want to do in these few minutes is welcome you, and I want to go through just a few PowerPoint slides with a view toward orienting you to what we're going to be doing and how I'm going to approach the course, and I hope you find this helpful. So let's get started. Here's what we're going to cover. And it's not going to take very long, but I'm going to talk a little bit about me, even though I don't like to do things like that. I'm going to talk about our schedule and class activities, a little context about FDA, week 1 deliverables, some thoughts about success and what you ought to be thinking about, and then that'll end our work for today. So let me talk a little bit about me. I'm a retired Florida healthcare lawyer, and I practiced in large and small firms and was even a solo practitioner for a while. I'm recording in my home office. It's a den in our home here in Tallahassee, where I live with my wife. Also living in Tallahassee are my lawyer daughter and my son, who also lives here. My daughter is currently a candidate for gubernatorial appointment as a county judge here in Leon County. And if I remember to tell you, because she'll find out during this course, I'll let you know if she's successful. I want to talk about my availability to you. I'll be available to you during most weekdays unless I've been called out of the office, most Saturdays unless I've been called out of the office, and then Sunday afternoons. I'm not available on weeknights usually, and especially not on Wednesday nights when I have a prior standing commitment. I'll be working with you in several capacities, and I want to talk with you frankly about those, because I will serve you and be working right alongside you as a guide, as a mentor, as a coach, as a critic. You can expect me to push you to do better every time, each and every time that you submit something. I'm a firm believer that if you take your time and work hard, you can improve your conduct. And I want to be a supporter also and an encourager. Nothing pleases me more than to work with students and see that they're interested and involved. And there's more about me if you want to know it in the syllabus. So let's go back to the slideshow or the PowerPoint, and I want to talk with you about the discussion board schedule. And I want to tell you up front that you'll be probably doing more discussion boards in this course than in many of the others you've been in. And here's why. We're going to have 2 initial discussion board posts that are due by Tuesday midnight. One of those is a class discussion board. Now, what that will do is ask your opinion, your observations about assigned topics, and it's a couple of paragraphs long about responding to the question. And then, just as important, but more of an in-depth approach, is your study and analysis of one of several available court cases. And what we're looking for is in both the class discussion and the case study discussion board, it is you as students will be actually teaching the course. When you receive my feedback about your class discussion and case study discussion, you'll hear me comment about the discussion's suitability for being a teaching piece. So keep that in mind as you go forward. Now those two initial discussion boards are due by midnight Tuesday, and then they will provoke or incite or suggest or invite responses. And those responses are due by midnight on Thursday. So what's going to happen is you're going to early in the week, you're going to file two initial discussion boards, a class discussion and then a case study, and then you're going to read other students' posts, and you're going to respond on those, and you're going to respond to a couple of those discussion board responses by Thursday night, a couple or more, I hope. Now, don't panic, because you're going to get assignments will be made available for you 9 days in advance. This semester starts April the 29th. You'll have your first assignments available to you 9 days earlier, specifically on April the 22nd. So you ought to have plenty of time to prepare and post your class discussion and your case study discussion board. Discussion boards are just a part of our course because we'll be doing other things. And regardless of what I say on this lecture, what's in the syllabus will govern in every instance in this course. One of the things that you'll be doing is preparing and submitting a legal analysis and evaluation paper on an FDA statute and rule that you select. And there are several parts to that paper. I want you to file, and we'll show you that in the course calendar. I want you to select your own statute and rule. Then I want you to post a summary of what you intend to study. Then I want you to post an annotated bibliography. And finally, I want you to post your paper. And I've spread out those deliverables among our 8-week course, so I hope you find them manageable. Another thing you'll be doing is you will do one of two things in this bullet item. You will either select, attend, and report on an FDA meeting. If you can't arrange a convenient FDA meeting, and you ought to know that pretty quickly, then I'll ask you to select, track, and report on a new FDA rule. Now, my preference is that you attend that FDA meeting, and you can go on site at an FDA meeting if one is being held close enough to you. Failing that, there's attendance on the web. So those are the major deliverables of the course: the discussion boards, the legal analysis and evaluation paper, the FDA meeting / new FDA rule. So that's exactly what we're going to be doing the first week. But let me give you a little bit of context about the FDA. It started off being the agricultural division in the United States Patent Office there in Washington, D.C., just before the turn of the 19th century. In 1898, it became the agricultural division there. And then about 8 years later, Upton Sinclair published a book called The Jungle, and you've probably heard about it. That book described in excruciating detail the outrageous, unhygienic conditions that were in the Chicago stockyards at that time. And believe it or not, that book fueled a national outrage about those conditions, because before then, there was no central location for drug and food inspection and approvals. It was everybody was on their own. There were some state laws, to be sure, but nothing nationally. And after the Jungle was published, the citizens of the country were outraged at what was in this book. And as a result of that, they got in touch with their representatives and congressmen. And as a result of that, the Pure Food and Drug Act of 1906 was passed. And out of that 1906 legislation, the emergence of the FDA as a federal agency could be seen. And I've listed other legislation in the syllabus, and that's what we're going to be studying. So I thought it would be helpful for you, if you weren't familiar with where it came from, that I just thought that would be helpful for you. I like, when I start a new topic, I want to know a little bit about the context, because that helps me learn, and I hope this is helpful for you. So after looking at the context, let's look at today's FDA. And when we do that, we see that it's got a budget in excess of $5 billion a year. It's got more than 15,000 employees, and it's really having a tough time. Well, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. It's under consideration as a separate federal agency. Right now, it's housed within HHS, the Department of Health and Human Services, and that presents a lot of bureaucratic difficulties to the FDA commissioners and its upper level employees. So that's under consideration. That's a political issue to be resolved in the chambers of commerce, chambers of Congress, and chambers of commerce also. And the FDA is struggling with rapid advances in technology. And along those lines, I want to share with you that on on March the 22nd of this year, the FDA issued a bunch of show cause letters to companies all throughout the country having to do with unsafe conditions for working with stem cells and being used for umbilical cords. In fact, one of those companies was located in Altamont Springs, literally just down the street from Winter Park, Florida, where at one time I had a law office. And I'll try to keep you up to date on what happens on those warning letters. But the point is that here we are having an agency whose origins were in the late 1800s, now dealing with stem cell technology. So that's just an illustration of how technology is just moving so rapidly. So I want to talk about what we're going to be doing in week number 1. Your class discussion will ask you to look at several FDA statutes and then give your impressions about its authority and jurisdiction. And I know you can do that. Then the companion discussion board, the case study discussion board, makes 3 court cases available to you for in-depth evaluation and analysis as you teach the class. The first case is one that's pretty near to a former home of mine. It's called Albrook freezing, and that involves strawberries that were shipped from Ponchatoula, Louisiana to Mississippi for processing. And you are to review that case, if you select it, for an in-depth evaluation analysis about FDA authority and jurisdiction. I say it's close to home because as a youngster, I was raised in New Orleans with family north of New Orleans, and we had to drive to and from Ponchatoula every time we went to Grandma's home. So I'm very familiar with that area of Louisiana and Mississippi. Regardless of that, you may want to take a look at the Albrook freezing case. The next case is the Philip Morris case, and the citation is in your materials. And this is one of the many tobacco cases. You'll notice when you read it that the court talks about many of the preceding cases, and you'll want to look at this Philip Morris case for FDA authority and jurisdiction. And the third case that's available to you is the Bacto Unidisc, and that asks you whether FDA has authority and jurisdiction of a cardboard disc. And I'm thinking that I misspelled the Unidisc title in this slide, and if I did, I apologize, and we have spell check to thank for that, I believe. So the point is, pick one of these three cases and go to work and give us an in-depth evaluation and analysis. And remember, you're teaching the class as well as yourself. So submit these two initial discussion boards by Tuesday midnight, and you'll want to respond by midnight Thursday. How to succeed in this course. I think it's fair for me to share with you what I'm looking for from you. And these are pretty obvious. You know all this stuff. If you don't read the required materials and some of the optional readings, you're not going to succeed. So, to succeed, buckle it up, strap it on, and read the required materials, and take a look at some of the selected optional readings. You'll find those optional readings give a lot of body and background and substance to the required readings. For goodness sake, submit your assignments on time, if not early. Submitting them late or is going to be disastrous, so don't fall behind. On your discussion boards, participate early and often in them. And then, to succeed in this course and in life, I want you to develop FDA compliance strategies and guidelines from day one. And I'll tell you why in just a moment. Some closing thoughts before we go. First of all, enjoy yourself. You'll hear me using this bicycle horn every once in a while in this course, just to make sure that I'm not taking myself too seriously, and I hope that you don't either. But enjoy yourself, relax. This is I hope you find it to be an invigorating and energetic course that's useful for you. Begin and submit your work promptly. Don't wait until the last minute. Do your best work early and get it in. And here's why I want you to begin working on day one. I want you, this is my goal, I want you to use the FDA compliance strategies and guidelines you develop in this course to make you immediately useful on hour one, day one on the job. If you can do that, you're going to be the go-to guy wherever you work. And then finally, you have my absolute best wishes for success in this course. I hope you enjoy it. I'm delighted you're here, and I look forward to working with you. Until next time, I'll see you then.